Hey, peace and blessings to you. My name is Jerry B. I am the entree musician, and so are you. This is going to be a very special episode here at the Entree Musician Podcast because this is the very first time that we are going to discuss classical music. As you know, we welcome all genres of music, and we've been blessed to interview very exceptional people across the board, but we've never touched classical until today. And I have some newfound friends from iClassical Academy in the persons of Irma De Jong and Gianriccardo Pera, who serve as the principal directors, I guess, with respect to the iClassical Academy. We're going to talk about the Academy. We're going to talk about music in general, but specifically what classical entree musicians need. I welcome you both to the podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you very much, Jerry. Everything's fine here.
Hi, Jerry. Hi, everyone. Great pleasure to meet you.
Absolutely. I guess the first thing we could discuss is the time difference between us. You're both in Italy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have about a 6-hour span, right?
Yeah, right. We have a wonderful day here, wonderful day in Italy, and we are about in the early evening. Yeah.
I see. So I am very, very interested in iClassical Academy. I was one of those kids who in public school, every year in school, they would bring us down to the symphony. And I had developed a fondness for classical music, specifically when the bow hit the cello and the sound went right through you. So I'm 5th and 6th grader, and all of my other classmates are throwing paper balls at each other, and I'm enraptured. So I do have a fondness for classical music. Tell me, what are your experiences in classical music? We'll start with you, Irma, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. You can start with me. Well, I discovered it a little bit later, let's say when I was around 26, I guess. Yes, 26. Classical music was not so much. We were not used to listen to classical music at home. But when I was in my 20s, I decided to make a career switch, and I decided to go into PR and marketing. And in order to have some experiences, I asked somebody to help me find a trainee position. And this person came up with 2 offers. He said, you can go to the orchestra, the symphony orchestra of the city, or you can go to the hospital. And of course, I choose the music. I mean, I love music very much. And I said, okay, classical music, the orchestra, that sounds fantastic. And I remember the first concert I went to was in an old hall because they didn't have the first hall yet. And it was just amazing. And I was always very much fascinated by classical music, especially the way how musicians work together on stage and how everything really matches and falls together. That was one of my passions in the beginning. Yeah.
Wow. And so what about you, Gianriccardo? Are you, however, are a musician though yourself, right? And a music producer.
Yes. Well, my mother was a violinist, so I grew up with some violin notes in my ears all the time, and then my mother retired when she was still young, but she was keen on playing sometimes, so that's how I started to know about classical music. Then I had a big pause in my relationship with classical music because I didn't do anything else. I never really learned violin. I started learning guitar, and then I went through different genres. By the age of 20, I had my rock band. Can you believe it? And so I had my rock band. I was playing rock tunes and so on, which I stopped after a while, and then I started producing and directing music shows. And that's how I came back to music from a complete different perspective, instead of from the perspective of someone who wanted to be a musician, to someone who wanted to work with musicians. That was a big difference. And then I met Irma and the classical team. Of course, I'm making it short. Much later, I met Irma and the classical team, and that was a fantastic combination, because for me, I had the occasion to combine all my musical experience with the video making experience and musical show experience. This was coming back all together, and it was all very useful and very important to be able to work with the iClassical team. That was an unbelievable combination, I have to say, in my professional life, and that's how we went on taking care of developing iClassical, which soon became, a big machine with a lot of content, a lot of different connections with musicians, and so that's my history with classical music.
Understood. Well, that's very good. Let me ask this just for clarity. Did the two of you, are you the founders of iClassical Academy? And can you tell me how it was founded, or who founded it, when it got started, and what the principal purpose of the Academy is?
Well, I can tell you about who are the founders. The first founders are two, let's say, mécènes who have a big heart for music and art and culture. And we were recording some master classes in a different place, and they saw the possibilities. It was really back in 2011 when we started to talk about it with the first mécène, who is a doctor, but very passionate about art and music. And he got the idea to say, why don't we start recording master classes and we put them online? Now, before we got to iClassical, we had some different steps to take. I mean, we started in a different way. There was some trouble to find the right recording places, to have it easy for the whole team to be hosted, etc. But then at a certain moment, we came in contact with the second founder, who was a person that I knew because I did a lot of projects in art and music in Switzerland, violin competitions and festivals. And I knew this person, and we were a little bit stuck with the first startup. And this person has a very analytic mind. So he helped us restructuring the situation and the academy. And he said, well, let's put it in this format. What do you think? And I said, yeah, not a bad idea. And then we moved the whole operation also to Italy, because we were already at the border of Italy, but we had better situations there. We found a fantastic villa at Lake Maggiore where we could host the whole team. We could have the professors coming in, the students, everybody was together. We were like one big family. And for 3 or 4 or 5 days sometimes, we were recording, making music. When there was a break, the students could practice. We had a fantastic studio down in the villa. It had a big grand piano that was provided to us from the owner, who was another friend that I knew from my music, let's say music career. And so everything came sort of together as a puzzle. And the location was very friendly and welcoming. So if a professor needed some break from the teaching, which is pretty intensive if you do that on in front of a camera, even although they very quickly forget that they are on camera. And they had the opportunity to make a small walk and go outside. And we had a fantastic cook in the evenings and lunches, we were all eating together, one big round table. So we had a really very special atmosphere, and this contributed very much to the quality of the recordings. And then we had a little, let's say, that was in 2014 when we started to record many master classes. We had very often a professor coming in who said, "Oh, what a wonderful project. I know this and this professor for violin or cello or piano. Why don't you invite this person as well?" So, you know, it was really like stepping stones. One stone would come after the other, and it would form a complete mosaic, let's say. And at a certain moment, we had to make some changes in our recording team, make it a little bit more up to date. Then we had Gianriccardo stepping in as director, which was very helpful because he had more knowledge also of classical music and music in general, and especially about, you know, what you need when you record. And this is how we grow. Then just to finish this short, let's say, how we started story. 2015, we went the first time online, and it didn't work out as we wanted because we couldn't find the right formula yet. And that we changed again late 2017. So if you would look at it as a startup for online music education experiences, I can say that we had 3 times to restart again. And it was interesting. I mean, you have all the time to stay alert. The online world is very different, but this is how we found it and how we grow and how we also changed constantly. We had to go all the time with the flow.
Wow. Well, could you tell me then, how do you attract students? How do they enroll? What is that process like? And is there a certificate, or do they graduate from the academy?
That's a good question. We that's another thing that was a little bit a surprise for us in the beginning. We were in the beginning in 2015, the first time we were aiming to students, but very soon it turned out that a lot of professionals and teachers were interested, which was actually logical because we didn't realize in the beginning that if you show master classes online, um, it's also interesting for a teacher to see how somebody else teaches and what are their secrets and how do they do and how they bring a student from one level to the next and overcome difficulties. And so we actually started to change that as well. There was a big change for 2017 that we realized that we were focusing more on the intermediate professional level, and students, they are still part of our audience, but students are very busy already with their own studies at conservatories. And so often they come in, they stay for a while, and they go out again. And the professionals, they stay, we have very loyal members. They stay for many years because they know that if they need to look back at something, which could be useful in a current situation, they use it as a sort of, you know, backup catalog that they know is always there, and then the catalog is always growing. And that's a little bit the situation. And I leave it up to Gianriccardo to answer the question about certificates and what happens and how we deal with that.
Yes, which is something that we introduced lately. So after several years of work and collecting and experiencing what our users are, we, let's say 2 months ago, started working on the offer of some certificated courses. That's how we call them. So a user can subscribe, and he can only attend all the masterclass that he wants to watch, or he can ask for one of our teachers for help in that way, to have a certificate stating, let's say in our case, we choose to do like defining a starting point for the student and defining an ending point. So a clear path that the student would follow with one of our teachers through a certain number of lessons online, which are variable according to the kind of subject and what is the goal of the student, and how much is the time that he has. So it's a very modular formula, and it brings in the end to a certificate where the teacher states the kind of improvement that the student had. So of course it's different from a graduation. Okay, we never call it graduating, of course. It's just certificating and stating actually what was the path and the learning process that the student went through. And so giving to the student something that actually states the result that he achieved.
Well, that's very cool, and I've been to your website, and it's marvelously done, marvelously laid out. What type of instruments are the professors? I know with piano, violin, but what else? What other courses with respect to the instruments do you teach?
We have so violin, piano, cello. We have trumpet. We have guitar. We have conducting. We have basic courses about conducting, which is called the art of conducting, but we also have more advanced about using of baton, rhythm, how to give the tempo, etc. These kind of things. And we also have music history. We have something interesting about the whole area of Anatolia, Mesopotamia. We have a Turkish teacher talking about this. I mean, it's something you will not find so quickly elsewhere. We have something about Beethoven, the Fifth Symphony. This was done with a musicologist. Then we have about pedagogy. There's a very nice course about how to teach in positive way music to kids. So that could serve for teachers, but also for students who want to teach to children. We have chamber music series about the importance of playing together. This is very helpful for teachers as well, but also for students. It's very important in classical music. They learn to play together. It creates bonds between students, but also between teachers. It bridges cultural differences. It really makes them understand what is the purpose of music. We have music and business about promotion, how to promote yourself, how to make a website, how to deal with social media, what to do, what not to do. There is a guy who has a very long career, clarinetist, also a music manager, also a producer, who talks about contracts, about how to tour, what to do, how to set your mind in the right way. Exactly what you teach is a lot. Also about how to arrange your finances. This is interesting because especially if we address freelancers, and you have many in music, in the music industry, it's very important to realize how to handle that too. So we really try to cover everything, which of course we don't have yet. I mean, we welcome other instruments. We're working on some flute. We have some jazz improvisation for piano, starting from classical music. We also put a lot of importance on different kind of techniques, like Feldenkrais and Alexander technique. This is very much related to body, mind, soul, and then integrated all with your music playing. How to avoid tension, which I mean everybody does. Even when you work on a computer, you put your shoulders high, or this happens a lot also with your instrument, especially for violin positions who are more difficult, or cello. in the instrument between the legs, or the contrabass, you know, you have to, the double bass, you have to bend down. So all of this is also covered.
Wow. That is, if you don't mind me saying, I mean, I've made this statement before off camera, but this is like the entree musician for classical music. I mean, you cover so many great bases. That's fantastic. Absolutely. And I think that Gianriccardo, that you have that rock band background definitely makes a difference. And that's the next question that I wanted to ask because of your background, Rick. With respect to the different disciplines that, you know, it takes a certain discipline to be in a rock band or a jazz band or a funk band, but then there are different disciplines that come into chamber music or a classical orchestra. How do you, with your experience, help bridge that gap so that the students understand that?
Well, for me, it's very easy to tell the truth. It's hard to believe, but listen to this. The first lesson, the first masterclass that I recorded, that I had the occasion to coordinate and directing for recording at iClassical, was a cello masterclass. Okay, so of course I was diving, because as a director of any video, and this is a basic rule for every kind of video you make, you cannot make a video without knowing the subject and what you are making video about. Which for me was pretty easy. So I was preparing, you know, listening to the piece that would be treated by the teacher and other things. And then the teacher started to teach, and I was following with the camera. You know, you can imagine me in the control room following this and that, the teacher speaking, the student playing, understanding, listening, and so on, making details to better show the content that the teacher was explaining. Well, he said 2 or 3 things that I really noted after the lesson about how to hold the strings, hold the neck, how to move the left arm and the elbow. You know what? I was applying this on my guitar when I went back home in the evening, and I discovered that it was valid for the guitar. Wow. Something that was taught by a cellist for cello was actually good for guitar playing. That was when I realized that there are a lot of similarity. Actually, there is not a real gap between instruments. I mean, guitar is different from cello, and is different from violin, and of course is very different from piano. Yeah. And the same happened many times again. You know, listening to violin masterclasses and other things. Well, of course, let's say the string instrument. We can say that string instruments, they all belong to the same community. Okay, it's very difficult that as a guitarist you can learn something from a pianist. I wouldn't exclude it, but it's difficult. Yeah. But from a cellist or from a violist or for a harpist, it's really likely that you can get hints, tips of all kinds. And actually I was improving my playing on guitar. It's unbelievable. By listening and editing, because then I had the occasion to edit the masterclass, so I will listen to the masterclass several times, yes, you know, during the process of preparing the masterclass for uploading onto the platform. Right. And actually, I can really say that I improved as a guitarist by listening to cello and violin teacher, and that's and then I could also propose, from my experience as a guitarist, electric guitarist, and acoustic, but just sometimes, something that actually became courses for classical musicians. For example, home recording. Yeah. As a guitarist, I was very much aware of how to record myself, how to record tracks, how to play along and record along with backing tracks, these kind of things. You know, I was pretty familiar with that. It's something that, is not a daily routine, but it's almost a daily routine. Well, I discovered that classical musicians, they very often, they don't do that. They don't know absolutely anything about that because, of course, they come from a different culture, a different tradition. They just study and study and study the interpretation and the score. It's complicated composition. So they don't have time, and they don't really, or at least they didn't have, really a mindset to understand how you can record yourself and get the best out of that. By listening back to yourself or editing some of your pieces in order to make them nicer. So we took agreement with a professor from Boston, Anthony Schultz, who made, I think it's the first course about professional home recording for classical musicians. Wow. This, I think, you will not find many of them, and he was really dedicated to, understanding your environment, placing some microphone, using free apps in order to record and edit, so it would be inexpensive, but it would bring to the musician a lot of experience. I have to say, in the beginning, this course was not watched too much, which testifies this gap, between someone like me coming from this particular background and the real classical musician. Right. Lately, it's going better. So in time, we can improve this relationship of the classical musician with some technology to record and edit pieces. But it's still an ongoing process.
That's a very good answer, because I know that there are certain ideological, quote unquote, gaps that exist between musicians of other genres. For example, you can be in a rock band, you can be in a funk band, and not necessarily read music, but the foundation of classical music is, you're trained to read. I mean, that's what it is.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
I've found, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I've found that here in the States, where our bands would be jamming, we're just playing music, a lot of improvisation, a lot of times classical musicians that I know cannot come to the platform and just improvise, because if there's no sheet music, they seem to be lost. I mean, is that kind of the norm?
Yes.
Yes.
It's very. I remember that I had no idea about that, and when I was working in the orchestra, there was a horn player. She was 23. She was very young and already becoming leader of the horn section in the orchestra. And one day we went for a couple of days, two of us together, to France. And then we met on a beach. We met a guitarist, one of those people that they just wander around, have a guitar under the arm. And he said to her, and she always brought her horn wherever she would go, on holiday, on whatever. And he said, "Come, let's play something together." And she looked at him really almost ashamed, and she said, "You know what? I cannot improvise." And I looked at her and I said, "What? You cannot improvise?" Because I cannot imagine that if you play an instrument, you don't have this, this desire to just do something on the instrument. Yeah. That would be, I play piano, not really as an amateur, but I just push a key. I like to hear what it is, do something, or make a little song myself.
Right.
And they don't have this experience. And also this course that we have about improvisation for piano, starting from Bach Musette, so a classical piece, and then he shows really almost easy chords to bring it on, to use the chords from the Bach Musette. It's very interesting. Wow. And then to bring it on to a jazzy kind of improvisation. It's a great crossover pianist from South Africa, Charles du Plessis. But in the beginning, I even had some members from the older generation who were very upset that we were using Bach to use it for jazz improvisation. And we said, look, we offer all kinds of genres, and we just invite classical musicians to explore this. And I think today now it's already a little bit more common that in conservatories they have also improvisation, but it's still not so common, and it's, I think it's a shame for them. They should really try it. It's too bad. I mean,
I
you can
agree.
do so much with your instrument with the bass that you have from, the bases that you have from classical music. It could be fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I think again, speaking from the United States, in our perspective, I think there's no necessarily competition. I shouldn't use that word, but there's like, some people who can't read but who are proficient on their instruments and can improvise think that those who can read at a great level are more elitist or purists because they are the real musicians. I can read, I know my instrument, but then when you flip it around, there is some intimidation that, well, I can't, like the young girl that played horn, I can't just pull out my horn and just jam with you. So there's that ideology that kind of exists. But the question I wanted to ask you, Irma, is the fact that you also own another company. You are an artist manager as well, or into artist promotion. How do you bridge your experience in working with artists from that level to what the work you do at iAcademy or iClassical Academy?
Well, it's sort. Let's say like this. My artist agency, Cicerone Music and Art, was founded in 1998. And actually, this year, I recently discovered I have a 25th year anniversary.
Ah.
So I said, oh, we have to celebrate something because, I'm not in a company where they will make a speech for you and you get flowers and you have everybody clapping and inviting us. Okay, I have to make the party myself, but
Right.
that's not the problem. And because I started from artist management for classical musicians because I came from that orchestra. Then I was a personal assistant for a famous violinist conductor. So I sort of explored all the areas of what you can explore, the public relation, the marketing, the organization, to tour, what the tour planning, this kind of stuff. And then when I worked for organizations to organize projects, they were very diverse. I mean, we even did an exhibition about the pieces from the Berlin Wall that are in a private collection, and they are painted by artists. And we connected it to a museum. So there was an exhibition, and we connected it to music, and we had classical music, but we also had a rock concert. We brought a tribute band, a Pink Floyd tribute band, to a wonderful place, and they played the wall music from Pink Floyd. So having that experience, brought almost automatically, because I knew these two founders, and they said, well, let's set up iClassical. And of course it was all new to us, the whole online area. But I like to set up new things. I'm really passionate to start something from zero. And even if it's difficult, we don't care. I mean, for every problem, there's a solution. We don't
Right.
see it as a problem, it's a challenge. And the online world is very challenging, but it's also a way to leave legacy because we have fantastic professors, and some of them are already over 80. So
Wow.
some of them, they don't teach anymore, or rarely. And you can find them on our platform. We have the first female cellist from the New York Philharmonic under Leonard Bernstein. And she came to Arona. Listen to this. She wanted to record a course. She had it all written out. And then we said, look, Evangeline Benedetti is her name. She lives in New York. We said, why don't you find a good studio in New York and you show us a sample? And I mean, not for having her traveling, etc. And she did a tryout, and then she called us up and she said, you know what? I don't feel comfortable with the result. I don't like the result. I don't feel comfortable. I will come to Italy. And we said, what? You're in New York. You come to Italy. You cannot find the right recording studio. Well, we said, okay, you come to Italy. And so we have that person as well. You know, we have really legendary stuff in a while. It's already legendary. We have a lot of this kind of people. We have the former assistant with Rostropovich, Maria JoãoPires.As, who teaches in a very Russian way. You know, Russians can be very pushy, and they are not like, oh, you're doing well, but could you please like this? No, it's like, no, you have to do like this. She's a cellist. So for some students, it's a little bit intimidating, but on the other hand, that's another feature of iClassical. It gives us the possibility to show all the schools. You had former schools, like you had the Russian school, the French, the Hungarian school we have from the States, we have the people from Israel who worked with famous pedagogues like Dorothy DeLay or Ilona Feyer. So we have it all together there. And today the world is different. So those schools are less prominent. There's a different way of playing. And this we have too, because for example, we have a duo, a teaching duo, Peter Szabo and his daughter Ildiko. And that's another interesting thing to see. We do cello conversations with them, which is not a masterclass, but people can talk to them, ask them questions. And then you have two different generations. So to wrap up your question, the basic that there is Cicerone Music and Art, and from this artist project management agency, I sort of manage projects and artists, and iClassical is a big project, I have to say, because normally my projects, they are there for a shorter time, 2-3 years, or it could also be 2-3 months. But this one stays for a very long time, and because it's online, you always develop. That's the beauty of it.
That is beautiful. That's a fantastic answer. Thank you for giving me the steps in between too. That's very good. I wanted to know how students can get involved, or are you looking for students to enroll? If so, what is that process? And are you looking for other professors to enroll as you continue to grow the arc of iClassical?
I let Gianriccardo answer.
Well, this is a good question, because in the beginning we thought that interactivity, or the so-called interactivity, was really necessary, because we are in modern times, we are in times of interactivity. Then later we started realizing that it was not exactly as we thought. I mean, when we talk about interactivity, we think of people leaving comments or commenting each other or exchanging idea between each other. So we had the pages of the website with the masterclass and the possibility to leave comments, and no one was commenting. And so we started wondering, how come? We said the interactivity and this and that, and no one comments anything. Then we realized that the involvement for a musician who, whether he's a young student or an amateur or a professional or a teacher, the involvement is not actually based on that kind of interactivity. What a serious musician, if you subscribe to iClassical, you are in front of your computer or your mobile device with a lesson. There is a lot of information you have to understand, and then you have to try it. Possibly you have to watch the videos again. It can be difficult. So the kind of interactivity that they need is really suggestions, encouragement, good advice about how to use the lessons. So interactivity for us, it means not let's chat, it's rather let's get more involved and let's get through what are the real problems and the real difficulties. And that's why even in our ads that we made, our ads are never promotional video like, hey, subscribe, you have a big discount, hurry up, it's the last day. We never do this.
Yeah.
We go completely different, explaining what they can find into one course rather than another one. So the promos are very long, and they really explain what is the content of the course, because they have to be able to understand if they need that content or not.
Right.
We have a lot of different content. If they don't need one, okay, they might need another one, but we don't want them to waste time believing that it's good for them and then maybe it's not, because this is the problem number one for a musician, not to waste their time because they're already under pressure and with a very busy schedule. So this is what we do, and there is a lot of work that we still have to do about this. A dialogue about difficult topics. This is not as easy as it looks. So we are every day thinking. We were just brainstorming 2 hours ago, like, what should we do to communicate this, to communicate that? Should we invite the teacher to an interview? Should we make the promo about this and that? We work on this, a consistent part of our time.
Understood. So do you want to talk a little bit about the great staff that you have? Because there's quite a few people who are helping to hold your hands up. You want to mention the other staff members?
In terms of teachers or with whom we work?
Yes, with whom
or
you
both.
work. Yes. Well, it's up to you. You can give them shout outs, as we say here.
Okay, great. Well, first I'd like to add to what you were just asking about, how can you join? In practicality, everybody can sign up as a free member, and they get already a complimentary collection. And the complimentary collection is free, and you will have 9 master classes, 3 for violin, 3 for cello, 3 for piano. You will have 2 courses, and you also have access to free content, where we have, for example, some content of the music and business courses you can watch for free. So that's already one way to explore the academy. Then our team is not very large. We basically work with people from Italy. We have a great webmaster who is partially active in Switzerland, and he's placed at the other lake, which is close to where I am. I'm at Lake Maggiore, he's at Lake Como. We have some people that are assisting us for social media, and one of them is in the Netherlands, and one of them is in the US. And then we have, of course, a fantastic team of teachers. We have the teachers from the past, let's call them like this, but they still come back sometimes for conversations, for a webinar. I was visiting this week one of the teachers who is teaching in Switzerland, and she is thinking about creating a quick course about violin technique. That's Virginie Robillard. So some of the teachers are nearby, which is very easy for us. And we're even trying to see for future if we can have maybe a summer course here at Lake Maggiore. And so we can invite members to meet us physically and see where we are. We will find a very nice place. And we have some of the teachers that are very close are based in Switzerland or Italy or France, and we have some of them in the States. And what else can I say about that? Do we have anything else? Yeah, we have also a great consultant for our ads. He's Italian, but he's based in Geneva. Am I forgetting? Do you have any idea, Rick, what we could add to this?
Well, we have a couple of, we have Gianni,
Oh yeah,
in
of
the,
course. Yeah,
yeah,
he helps
yeah, we
with
have a
content.
couple of, yes, we have a couple of people. Then
Most
there
of
is
them are
Roberto,
freelance.
Yes, people that have been working with us almost since the beginning, so we know each other very well. We have a lot of confidence when we have to do something. So we are very happy of that. Just a couple of days ago, I had the occasion to talk again after several years with Pavel Berman, who is an unbelievable performer and a great teacher. He teaches in Switzerland, and he made the exclusive course about the Paganini caprices. He first performed them all in front of the camera, 24 Paganini caprices, and then he explained them passage, phrase by phrase. But I was really impressed because I knew him that he could do it, but believe me, it's something to perform 24 Paganini caprices in front of a camera. And the correction in the editing, I can reassure, was just a few. We did some, but it was not. They were not many. So, and now he's coming back for further collaboration with us. That's also very pleasant for us when we can do that.
Right. And I can also maybe add to this that we have some partners, some media partners. We work with Medici TV. That's a big platform. They offer all kind of classical music, opera, concerts, recitals, documentaries, and then the master classes. We work with Naxos, video library. And we also have a Chinese partner, Kuka.com. And we have a partner in South America, Allegro HD. And Allegro HD is showing some content that we have in Spanish. We have some content available in Spanish. We have a very nice violin for tango course, which also talks about the tango history, everything starting in Buenos Aires with the immigrants, how they came there. They talk about the composers, and that's with members of the Estación Buenos Aires ensemble, in particularly Rafael Gintoli and Xavier Weintraub. And this course is completely in Spanish, with English subtitling, but it's really interesting. Also, when you don't play the violin, I mean, it's a really interesting course. And then we have with this course, it's the only course we have with backing tracks. So you have all the composers' songs, and you can, without piano, and you can, after you study the material, you can play along with your violin to this music. So you play along with the ensemble. And that's very nice.
The video backing track, so you can play the video and you have the band in front of you, which is playing everything but the violin, and you can play the violin part. That's interesting.
That is very interesting. My
yes,
goodness gracious.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
How can people get in touch with you if they want to connect with you, either Irma or Gianriccardo or both of you, and just to learn more about what you're doing? How would you want them to contact you?
Well, I would say maybe the easiest is through LinkedIn. And of course, there is an email address on our website, iClassical Academy, but LinkedIn is maybe the quickest way. I mean, if you search our names, we can connect. That's also how we connect, by the way, Jerry.
Yes.
I mean, LinkedIn is a fantastic platform for this.
It is.
You read each other's inspiring posts.
Yeah.
You see what people do, and you write a PM and you get in touch. And I find it really interesting because you can see the activity of the person. It gives a very complete overview. Of course, the website, we have some information in the About Us section, which is under resources. Or but it could even be Facebook. But I prefer, to be honest, LinkedIn. I'm for business. I'm very much connected to LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Well, I use
But you
I'm
you
sorry.
you have to feel free, Jerry. Sorry to leave the email address if you want. It's not a problem for me.
Very well. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to have the links to all of your businesses in the description of the comment section here. And so everybody can just click on, because, I'm telling you, when you go to this website and you see the wealth of information that's on there, I'm a jazz guy, not necessarily classical. I have an affinity for it, but man, some of the professors are just hardcore. They're just right on point. You see the students sitting side by side. It's wonderful stuff. And the gentleman, I believe his name is Michael, with the music business interest in his course. Exciting stuff. So I've learned a lot, and so I encourage you, if you're watching this or listening to it, you want to go to iClassicalacademy.com. You definitely want to learn more about this great entity that's going on. But I always ask this question at the end of every interview, because I know that you both are in touch with the media and you're expanding the iAcademy format. Was there a question that you wanted me to ask you and I did not ask that question? You're going, what's wrong with Jerry? Why didn't he ask me this? You wanted to get the information out. Is there something else that you wanted to share?
To be honest, Jerry, I think you had fantastic questions.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for being so involved, and also to take the time to dive into iClassical Academy to really see what we have there. I appreciate that very much. So you knew what you were talking about. You asked very good questions. I have nothing to add. I really think we said everything we could say, and it was very interesting. I found it a very interesting and enchanting conversation. So thank you. I don't know, you want to add something, Rick? You have something you
Well, I just confirm exactly what you just and just confirming exactly what you were saying. And I also want to thank Jer, because you're really, Jer, someone who spends his time to talk with people who work in music, and this is not as obvious as it sounds sometimes. And so we are very happy to talk with you. Thank you very much.
I feel the same concerning the two of you. I know this won't be your last time here on the podcast, and I know that somewhere down the road we'll be working closely together, because you are two fantastic people, and I really do appreciate meeting you through LinkedIn, as you said, Irma, reaching out to me, and just having this opportunity to meet Gianriccardo is going to be wonderful. So you guys are right on point with something that's just going to... It's going to grow and grow and grow. You're going to have an iClassical Academy in the United States. You're going to have it in Ireland. You're going to have it in Australia. It's going to be everywhere. So fantastic stuff. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Jerry.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you.
And I have to say, you are a perfect host. You do this so naturally. It's like you did it your whole life. Maybe you did also.
Yeah.
I don't know. You have really a natural talent to first of all be inviting to the audience and then inviting to us also. I felt very comfortable talking about all these things. It's like we're having a nice conversation amongst friends. Actually, we have a conversation amongst friends. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Irma. Thank you, Gianriccardo. And that's going to do it for this episode of The Entre Musician. I'm telling you, you got to go to iClassicalacademy.com. You have to learn more. If you have just that much interest in classical music, you will find out a wealth of information that you absolutely need to know. That's going to do it for this edition. Don't forget to pick up my best-selling book, The Path of the Entre Musician, 9 Keys to Unlock Your Mindset, Discipline, and Focus. I always say it, and I want you to know, I'm going to repeat it again. My name is Jerry B. I am the Entre Musician, but what's most important is so are you. And we will see you again next time. God bless.